All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. I hope we are all doing well tonight. We're getting a little bit of a late start. I had to iron out some kinks before I was actually able to get things going, but I think we are good to go on both platforms. So we're going to pick up where we left off last night. And I did get a little bit of stuff done offline as well. So we were able to move forward quite a bit, actually. And we'll go over that stuff here in just a second. But before we do that, I do want to just take a second to thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with our elite partner, Javier Lazaran, which is the highest tier of subscription over on Patreon, as well as our partners, Gaboli's Inc. and Matt Osgard. That is the next tier of subscription there, as well as our supporters listed here, scrolling on the screen now. They're a combination of the other tiers of support over on YouTube memberships, Patreon, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It means a lot to me and helps me cover costs associated with running the channel in this project, such as software licenses, hosting fees, things of that nature. So it is greatly appreciated, but I would be remiss if I did not give a big thank you to all of you viewers who you're tuning in either live here on the YouTube side or the Twitch side, or if you're just catching the VOD after the fact. Thank you very much for being here. Without you guys, this project and thus this channel would not be here. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you very much for being here and following along. All right, let's see. Hussein Ali over on the YouTube side. Hello. How are you doing today? Love what you do. Keep it up. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. 10x Developer, good to see you. Happy Juneteenth. Yes, happy Juneteenth indeed. All right. Ruche, hello to you as well. All right, so as far as where we left off, we basically, last time we had essentially stripped out the resource system and taken a look at the to-do system here, or the to-do file, rather. One of the things that we needed to do was to rework the pipeline for imports to exist in Kohi tools instead. And that looks like it's mostly done. I think I still have a few things to debug and troubleshoot, but we're going to be able to mark that done tonight. So with that, we should probably go over all of the changes that that takes into account. And I think the easiest way to do that is to look at the diff that I have here locally. So I'm going to do that. Let me just pull that up 1 second. And I'll go over the stuff anyways that is relevant, right? So I had a couple of bugs in the file system I had to fix, nothing major there. Another bug in K-string that I had to fix. So nothing too crazy there. But tools main, essentially this is what gets run. This is sort of the main program for all of our tooling, right? So this is the application that we run. It's a command line application. And we pass to it a series of switches and options. And now we actually have a new import manifest, right? So that's what I'm going to implement for now. I eventually will probably add the individual bespoke imports at another time, just because I don't really need to do that right now. Importing from a manifest is enough. So the import manifest option essentially kicks off what we were looking at last night. So we provide a manifest file path for that to go ahead and analyze, and then it goes ahead and performs imports against anything it needs in there. And there's a couple of minor bugs that I had to fix in some of the importers. Nothing big there, just a few small bugs here and there. The biggest portion of it, of all the changes, was actually in this K-asset importer. And we touched on some of this stuff last night, but we didn't really get all the way through it. So that I'm just going to walk through the code instead of the diff. So we talked a little bit about what this might look like from the command line, and this is something that has changed a little bit, but we're not going to necessarily do it this way. So I want to leave this here as just a note instead of a left off. But whoops, changed since reading it. Let me reopen that guy. and try that again. Okay. Okay, so what we're really going to look at here, and you know what, I'm actually going to close this other buffer so that we can actually see what we're looking at here. So the main entry point to this is import from path is sort of one way of doing it, and then there's also import all from manifest. So this is actually what that sort of front-end command line utility calls. All it requires is a path to a manifest file. So if we do Illumina manifest, the asset manifest, right? It loads this file. And all it is interested in, at least for this process, is this list of assets, right? So essentially, we extract some information from that. We get the base directory of where the asset manifest exists, because we'll need that to access the other assets. So if we take a look at, let me collapse some of this stuff here. So if we take a look in here, in our Illumina application, under our assets folder, we have our images, materials, models, scenes, sounds, terrains, etc. And then our, excuse me, our asset manifest sits right next to that, right? So essentially, we're able to extract the path of where this file sits, and then from that, process the assets from there. So that's why we get that. We go ahead and we read the manifest content, and then we go ahead and we use the parser, which is actually located in the K package system, because that's primarily what uses this. But we're able to go ahead and leverage that. And that will give us a list of assets and an asset count, right? So we have this this sort of manifest thing that we have here. The manifest, and it just contains essentially a breakdown of what's in this file. So it contains the name of the manifest, the full file path, the path containing the K package file, right? So that's super important. And then a list of the assets and a list of the references, right? So we're not doing anything with references in this process. We're not going to process those in this. We're just going to handle the manifest that's passed, and that's it. It's not going to be recursive. So we go ahead and get our asset count, output a little bit of info here to the console, loop through the assets, and then for each one of them, we go ahead and we check. We say, hey, does this asset have a source path? Yes or no. If it does not have a source path, we output a trace message for now, basically saying, hey, we have nothing to import, right? Because only assets that have a source path have something to import. So, case in point, we have this KSM file, which is a Kohi static mesh. It has a source path that points to an OBJ. So this OBJ imports to this guy, right? So if we don't have a source path, there's nothing to import. Things like the item DB that we have, there's no import process for that. It just is what it is, right? So there are some assets that we don't have to import. In addition to that, the manifest itself also has entries to things that are imported from other files. So when we actually import these things, these two material files, for example, come from the MTL file associated with this OBJ. And I just happen to know that, and I've set this up. Eventually, we probably will have some sort of process to automatically write to this manifest file with anything that is imported, so that is included. But for now, it's just sort of a manual process, and I'm okay with that for now. Next, what we do is we go ahead and we take the extension from the source file, the source path, right? So that's going to be, the last, dot whatever that's in here. That's going to be the extension, and we actually use that to determine what path we need to take in this application. So we can see here we've got a bunch of string equal I checks here, one for OBJ, one for MTL. So we have those explicit. Then we also have extension is audio. So extension is audio just checks for MP3, OGG, and WAV for right now. We can extend that if we need. We also have extension is image. So right now this checks for JPEG. The old school JPEG path or extension rather, PNG, Targa, and bitmap, right? Those are the ones we support out of the box right now. And so we just have an extension as audio, extension as image, and then we have another string equal I down here for FNT, which is for bitmap fonts. So essentially what this does is it chooses which path it needs to go down, and then it either gathers some default options that it's going to need to actually process some of this stuff, or it goes ahead and just kind of does its thing that it needs to do. So ultimately, each one of these processes go into a something to something, right? So this is going to be an obj to KSM for OBJ files. For MTL files, it'll be MTL to KMT. For audio, it's going to be source audio to KAF, which is Kohi audio file. And then we have, for images, we have source image to KBI, which is Kohi binary image. And then we have, for FNTs, there's FNT to KBF, which is Kohi bitmap font. So we have, all of these things set up. This is easily extensible, and we're already using the importers that we wrote before. The only thing that we had to change on some of them was the input parameters to some of those functions, but those things are all up here. So all of those individual functions are here, and you can see all of them are pretty short, right? So obj to KSM basically just reads the entire file and then calls the importer. And then it also reports a list of material file names. If we have any of those, then we go ahead and loop through those and process those accordingly. I actually just did notice a memory leak here. Let me go ahead and fix that. We are not cleaning up the source folder. So let's go ahead and get that in there. MTL to KMT. Essentially, again, reads the entire file and then passes it to KAtset material obj MTL import and does its thing for an individual MTL. So source audio to KAF just calls KAsset audio import. Same for image imports, really simple stuff. Same with bitmap fonts, again, really straightforward stuff. So all of that together is run in our sort of our debugger here, right? And so I went ahead and created, just for convenience purposes, I actually added another entry to our launch JSON, and I'll probably set up a like a shell script and a batch file for this as well. But essentially what this does is we have this Illumina import all assets from manifest. And so what this will do is it will execute Kohi.tools with the arguments import manifest, and then it'll give the path to the asset manifest for the game, right? So it passes those two arguments and then allows us to actually debug. And that is the way that that works. And so if we go ahead and we go to our debug here, and we, instead of launch Shadows of Illumina, we say Illumina import all assets from manifest, and we run that. And we expand our terminal a little bit here. We can see we've got some things we need to sort out, right? But for the most part, it's actually working as designed as far as I can tell. There is a couple of things, like I said, we've got to sort out, but nothing is too crazy, right? So we have that. Let's see. Looks like we have some issues with ogg Vorbis files, so we'll have to figure that out and what's going on there. But as you can see, we also are outputting all of our messages as expected, right? So like item DB does not have a source path. There's nothing to import. There's nothing to import for this one. Nothing to import for this one, but there is something to import for this one, and you can kind of see how it just goes through there. It looks like our source image to KBIs are giving an unrecognized image format requested, and that is defaulting to 4 channels RGBA, which is actually what we want for right now, but we are probably going to have to come up with some sort of a way to configure that. But for right now, it's good enough. All right, so I think the only thing we need to figure out, there is an issue that I'm aware of with the Skybox, and then there's this failed to import ogg Vorbis file. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll have to figure that out. It looks like it might be specific to this one ogg Vorbis file, because it looks like other ones are working. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. We'll figure that out. But yeah, it looks like, as far as I can tell, it looks like everything is working. If we go over here, after I've run this, and we look at our git diffs, in the actual application itself. We can see here that we have just a couple of changes, right? We have the launch JSON, which we're looking at right now. And then we have this KMT file, which defaults its transparency always to false for these materials that are imported from an OBJ, because we don't have a way to actually say for sure whether or not the material is transparent. So we don't want to check that in. We just have to manually change those to true whenever that comes up. So we can get rid of that one. And then the test cube MTL, this I had to manually modify because there was an issue where the default sort of test cube material that we had didn't have a diffuse map assigned to it. So I went ahead and assigned one to the base asset. That way when we go ahead and import it, it shows up correctly. And that's it, right? So all of our assets are actually being imported correctly, and it looks like everything is working the way that it's expected with those couple of caveats. So I hope all of that makes sense. Yolan TV, good to see you. How are you? Let's see. Why don't you use CMake? Because CMake is overcomplicated and we don't need it. CMake is used when you have like a bunch of dependencies, right? And we try to eliminate as many dependencies as we possibly can. And CMake itself is a dependency, and I don't want it. I try to keep this project as simple as possible. Let's see. I'm having problems linking against the engine, so that's kind of nebulous a little bit, right? But I would say the problems with that, you'll have to, maybe reach out on the Discord and, give the specific errors, because I can't troubleshoot it here on stream. But usually if you head over to the Discord and you actually put what you're running into, somebody might be able to help you over there if I can't get to it. All right, so let's see. One of the things, and I'm actually going to debug this, and we're going to run the application, right? All right, so we can see that everything is running. I'm going to go ahead and launch this guy. And we can see that it looks mostly okay, right? There's a couple of issues, and that's fine. A couple things we've got to figure out. You'll notice that the water looks a little bit weird. And that is actually not the fault of the water itself, but it is the fault of, if I switch camera modes here, the skybox, right? So the skybox is foobar. And that is because the skybox initially was set to not have its y-axis inverted, right? And so by default, all of the images that we import to textures, they do invert that, right? So we just need to make a small modification to the skybox shader to actually handle this. However, that being said, NavyMe had actually added a pull request. So this, I'm hoping, is actually I'm actually hoping this is something that I can... Let's see if I can actually use this directly, because that would be awesome if I could. So let's see. We have... yeah, okay, this is pretty much what I was thinking. We just invert on the z-axis, right? And then this is actually something that I've had to add to because of Clang 20. So that is good as well. I think I've actually already got this change in there. The question is... this is going into the main branch, which I can't do. So this would need to go into... I wonder if I can change this without... I wonder if I can change this without having to... Yeah, let's just do that. So I'm going to put this into release 10. Wait, am I doing... Let's see. Wants to merge 2 commits into base main. Oh. NavyMe based this off of main, the main branch. I really want to merge this, but I don't know. I mean, it shouldn't really screw things up, I don't think. Because I don't think those files have actually changed from 0.9. So I'm going to try this. Normally I would just ask the person to do it, but I actually want them to get credit for this change here. So let me just make sure. Yeah, okay, so that change is good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge this into 0.10, and then I'm going to pull that down and then merge 0.10 into my branch, and that will actually fix this. So let me go ahead and do this, and all right, cool. All right, so that is done. So that's merged in. So what I'm gonna have to actually do now, let me shut this down and go over here. And I'm actually gonna have to, let's see, that was gonna be checked into Kohi. So I'm actually gonna have to check in my work here first. Status. So let me just have a quick look at what I'm checking in. We should be good. All right. Various bug fixes. Also, code complete on asset import pipeline. All right, so I'll push this up. Then release 10. Pull this down. And then git checkout, let's see, refactor, assets, git merge, release 10. And that should be fine. All right. Let's just push that change back up as well. All right. So now, if we go to debug this, I'm curious if that's going to actually just fix it. It might. Hey, look, it actually did. Sweet. Thank you, NiviMe. It's one less thing I had to fix. Actually, it looks like we might have some, we might actually have still some issues with the way that the skybox textures are imported. So I wonder if they're like in the wrong order or something. It almost looks like the texture coordinates themselves are off. Pretty sure. Because the fix that he put in was definitely the fix that I was going to add. It's the same exact way I would have handled it. I wonder, though. Oh, I wonder if it should have been on the y-axis instead of the z-axis. Because I saw in the test that he had it was correct, but it might actually... That doesn't seem right, though. But let me try it. Apotham, how's it going? Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Yeah. I'm actually thinking these are just totally wrong. Does the tree actually look right? Did we actually get that right? Yeah, that looks correct. So it's just the skybox that's foobar. And I'm guessing it's foobar on all sides. Yes, it is. So I have to wonder Because before, what I was doing was essentially I was not flipping those images, right? So every other image got flipped except those. So I'm actually wondering if that is just completely wrong. Magat, good to see you. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. So let's see. Why would this makes sense? But I'm wondering if there's something else I'm missing here. Rough day for me today, learning pixel art for my game, and well, my lack of artistic ability, I had an easier time learning Vulkan. That's kind of the way it goes, though, right? Like, everybody has their own things that they excel at and the things that they struggle with. And so what might be easy for one person is really difficult for another. So I get that. I definitely get that. Vulkan is overkill for a pixel art game. I mean, depending on the pixel art, right? If you're doing 3D pixels, right? Maybe not. Depends. Depends on what you're doing, right? What inspired you to write the engine? A couple things. So, first off, I wanted to make this as an educational resource. The kind of educational resource that I wish that I had when I was learning how to do this stuff, because there wasn't really, there wasn't like a tutorial out there, really, so to speak, on how to do it. You know, there was a little bit of information on how to write renderers and stuff, like an OpenGL back in the day, but like there really wasn't too much of anything out there that goes end to end, you know, how to make a game engine. And I'm talking all the way back in like 2001 is when I started looking into this. So, you know, I was kind of wanting to make an educational resource on a way to build a game engine. Not necessarily the only way or always the correct way, but, you know, something that does deep dives into stuff, you know, discusses thought processes, design decisions, and then looks into things that work and things that don't work as a way to sort of actually go through what it's like making one of these things for real. Because I think tutorial series, once you get past a certain point, they're not really realistic, right? You know, you kind of get to a point where it's like, well, okay, you know, everything is sort of, you know, pre-measured out and pre-developed and pre-thought out by the time you get to the tutorial. And that's not realistic in terms of making a project like this. So I kind of wanted to show that, along with all the issues that go with it and all the stuff that you run into and all the weirdness. But also, my main goal is to actually get people motivated to want to make game engines. And the reason for that is because I believe that competition in this space is needed, and it generally leads to innovation. You know, and I think, you know, we've got the three big game engines out there that are great for what they are, right? But they're, you know, game development's kind of gone towards, you know, everybody just uses those engines, and making engines kind of became a lost art. And, you know, I don't think that a few large engines sort of ruling the landscape is the way to go, you know, because those come with lots of drawbacks and issues, right? Not to mention, you know, those things are one size fits all, so they tend to be way more complicated than you actually need. And so I think having more competition in this space is always going to be a good thing, and this is hopefully motivating people to get into that space. So I hope that helps. Where's the project going next? So we are making a 3D isometric action RPG with this engine. So we do have some engine work that we've kind of gone back into doing right now. We're going to be going back and forth between writing game code and writing engine code quite a lot, at least in the beginning, until the engine itself stabilizes, right? It's a brand new code base, so, it's going to take time for that to stabilize. I'm generally the only one working on it for the most part. And so, we are going to be making a 3D isometric action RPG. We've already done some design work on stream, and have done some world building, things like that. So that's kind of the direction that the project is headed in. We are going to, before we do a release of the engine, or like a 1.0 release of the engine, we will have released a game with this engine first. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Haven't caught the stream in a while. Glad I made it. Awesome. Well, welcome. I hope you're doing well tonight. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Reference implementation of a game engine. Yes, for now it's a reference, for sure. I would not recommend using this stuff in production yet because it does not have all the kinks ironed out of it. Not even close. Much of a technology guy. Art is something art is something on a whole my brain doesn't understand very well, which is why I'm doing it. That's awesome. Yeah. That's the way to learn new stuff, right? Is to just get your hands ready, dirty and get in there and do it. Reading about the theory all day and stuff like that only goes so far. All right. So let me think about this for a second, because we actually had... I'm going to keep the shader open over here, and we're going to go back to the importer for a second. And actually, we're going to go to the image importer. And let's see, we have flip Y on by default. Actually, I don't think that decision is made here. It's passed in. Source image. So flip Y, we don't want that one. Let me try. Because here's where we're making the assumption that Y should be flipped on import, right? I don't know. Do we specify that in the... I know we kind of talked about this a little bit last night. Like, let me try flipping this to false real quick. I know that's basically going to mess up every other texture in the system, and that's okay. Why is it suddenly rebuilding everything? All right, let me rerun the asset import for everything. And then we will rerun the game. Now, I realize this is going to mess up every other texture. I just want to see if this actually fixes this issue. I did not change the shader. Let me do that. I did not back out this change. Interesting. It did not fix it. I can see that the textures are flipped on all this stuff and they're all wrong on this stuff, which makes sense, right? These are all backwards, which makes sense, but the skybox did not get fixed. That makes me wonder if they're like maybe being loaded out of order or something. So if I put his fix back in here, wait. Yeah, that's still foobar. Okay, so that makes me think that maybe I wonder if this is an image format issue, as opposed to what I was thinking it was. Okay, let's do this. Actually, let me look through the logs. So let me run this importer again. And let's see, we have actually down here the Skybox imports. So let's see. Okay, these are importing. We're importing JPEGs. I wonder. Okay, so defaulting to 4 channels. I wonder. Let me catch this. Because this is actually. This is falling back on RGBA, which I would want it to actually do. I just wonder if there is something else I'm missing here. So let me relaunch this. It's doing this across the board, though. So required channel counts. In fact, actually, let me go here. And I want to see if this required channel count is ever... I'm actually going to put a conditional breakpoint in here and say required channel count is not equal to 4. And we're going to relaunch this and see if it catches anything. It does not. Okay. So the only other thing that I can assume then is when we are writing the asset channel count out, I'm going to put another breakpoint here and say this is not equal to 4 and see when that catches. Let's run this. Now we have something. Okay, so I think what is happening here... What asset is this by chance? Orange lines PNG. Okay. So I wonder if this is actually... We're actually writing out asset channel count. I think that's what's wrong. At least that's part of it. Okay. So let's go to the image importer. And instead of... Let me actually... Yeah, I'll leave that open for now. So instead of... Here we go. So instead of outputting channel count here, I'm going to put I32 source channel count. And I'm going to go here and just do source channel count. And then down here, I'm going to do asset channel count equals required channel count. Since that is really what we want to use anyways. So I think that mismatch is actually probably what's causing more than half of our issues. All right, so that means I'll need to re-import all the images again. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we'll go ahead and run the application one more time. Hey, what do you know? It's fixed. Partially, at least. Okay, so it was a format issue indeed. It does look, though... Okay, so our images are being loaded in the right order. Top to bottom is fine. But it looks like left and right are not correct. So I'm wondering if I need to invert the y-axis instead of the z-axis over here. That seems wrong. Or maybe it needs to be both. I'm not 100% sure, to be completely honest. Let's run this. Okay, now it's completely... All right, that actually kind of makes sense what happened there. Is it... Okay. So... Oh, I know what's also throwing my results. I also had turned off... I turned off that. So I need to re-import again. Okay, and then run this again. I think this is actually going to be wrong. I think I'm going to have to flip this back. Yeah. Okay, so let's put this back. Did we actually... I think we built this, right? Yeah. Yuck doing that in a shader. Yeah, I mean, but the thing is... Do I need to do... It's good for debugging. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because really the skybox is like the only thing where like inverting the image kind of breaks stuff. So let's see. These are backwards now. I don't think this is going to be the right fix. I'm actually thinking it might not be. The only thing I can think of. Let me try something extreme, right? This is kind of a pain in the ass because I don't have hot reloading working yet, but that'd make this a lot easier to test. Yeah, it's still wrong. All right, so if I do it without any modification. Yeah, I don't think we can invert the texture coordinates like that. Because it's not going to be correct all the way around. It's like the... No matter what I do, it's going to be wrong in one direction, right? Because if I do this... The order is borked. Well, what? Okay, hold on. I think I've got a bit of a Heisenbug in there somewhere as well. But the order shouldn't be borked, right? Because like that was... Like those texture coordinates are clearly wrong. Right, I think it got better when I did this. That is definitely wrong, though. Why would that be? Oh, you know what? But see, it's not only wrong top and bottom. It's also wrong left and right. Or it actually could just be completely foobar, looking at it, actually. I wonder if something... let me think about this. So... The only thing that I can think of when we're loading up the cube map, I wonder if that is just completely borked. All right, so let me restore this back to where it was. Let me go to the texture system. I could have swore we had this right before, though. Let me try something, actually. Let me try something that's not quite so insane. So I actually took a backup of the assets before all the import stuff, right? So I have this backup of the assets here. I'll copy them into Illumina and then do a replace on all these guys, right? Let me run this with the old assets, and this will tell me if it's actually an issue with the importer or what. Okay, so that is still wrong, but these are in the right order. So if I undo this and run it, yeah, it's still foobar. Okay, and this is the original copy of the assets. So I guess I just didn't notice it before. So I guess what's happening, let me see if this happens across the board. When I load a new one, yeah, I think these might be coming in out of order. It's the only thing I can think of. Okay, so let's see. So here we go is the type cube. So the order should be front, back, up, down, right, left. What is the order? Can we actually find that in here? Oh, yeah, wait, okay. So here's the order that they were requested in. Front, back, up, down, right, left. But I'm willing to bet those probably aren't coming in the right order. Let me grab this for reference. And what we will do this is get image asset names from options. Okay. So we get that. We have the image asset names. We request them all. This is where that is done. Either from package or not. Does not matter. They both go to the same callback. So this callback, loaded asset count, okay. So the texture is content texture. Okay, so we're just setting the dimensions. That's fine. Context assets. Is just an array of pointers to assets. So I wonder if those maybe are not coming in the correct way. I can't imagine why they wouldn't, because we set up that array in the context before we actually do the thing. Trying to think if there's any race condition here that would mess this up, but I can't think of any. Texture apply asset data. This is just going to go through the assets and apply them in order. I suppose what I could do. These don't have a name associated with them, though. Let me think about this for a second. So if we have... we loop through the array size. We know that we're requesting them in the right order. I just wonder if they're coming in the wrong order. That's directly applying pixel data, so I don't think it's going to be any of that. The only thing that could make it out of order is this, but this is not a multi-threaded operation either. Because this is directly used. Let's see, so we do... yeah, we loop through and we set these assets in order here. So I don't think they would be out of order. Yeah, inspect the skybox with render docs. I might have to do that, yeah. That's annoying. Yeah, I was hoping like it was something I'd be able to like pick up really quickly in code, but apparently not. All right, so let's just go ahead and just take that. Sanity check time, yep, exactly. I still think it has... well, no, it can't be. It can't even be something that has to do with the asset import because we're not even using imported assets right now. Okay, so in here, let's just look at the standard pass skybox. So we'll do this guy. And let's take a look at the cube texture. So I wish there was a way these look fine, I believe. I guess then the other way would be... see, the problem is it says slice or face, which depending on how that actually interprets that, I don't know if that's actually going to... why would the order have changed though? The x plus and minus, right? So let me go to here. Where was that? So x plus and minus is going to be front and back. So that actually makes sense, right? And then up and down is going to be y plus is going to be up, y minus is going to be down. And then right and left is going to be z plus and z minus. Minus, plus. Yeah, that totally makes sense. These are, okay, so these are in the correct order here. I guess let me open the actual images themselves. Let's see. Let me actually do a... oh, yeah. Let's actually take a look at... Here we go. I want the source. Right, so we have front, which should be this guy. Right, so if we take a look at x plus front, should be this guy. That is that image. Okay, so front and then back is going to be this guy. That's definitely the same image. And then I guess we could look at up, right, which is going to be this guy. That's the correct image. It's even in the right orientation. Down, there's not really much we're going to be able to tell from that. And then, what did I call this? It was right and then left. So right is this guy. That looks the same. And then left is this one. So to me, all the images are actually loaded in the correct order. They're not flipped or anything. So why are they not lining up? What am I missing? Do I need to do... I don't remember if I actually tried this. Or maybe it's the x-axis that's wrong. I guess I could take a new capture. We've established the fact that that's correct. Low-key hoping RenderDoc had some sort of cross-shape presentation of the skybox images. Yeah. I don't think it does, though. I don't think it does. Can I do... Yeah, because that would be really awesome. Unfortunately, like, it just gives you this, which I don't think... I'd love to see it in the cross format, but I don't see that here. Open texture list. No, that's definitely not what I want. Close that. I don't know what this is. Extensions, okay. Yeah, I don't think there's anything in here that actually allows it to be displayed like that. Which is lame. That'd be super useful. Yeah, you're right, but oh well. All right, so let's launch this with the new shader. No. Okay, so it's clearly not... Flipping it on the x-axis is not working. Because like if I look at these... If I look at these images, if these images were actually flipped left to right, we would actually be in good shape. Everything would line up. Except maybe the top. Well, actually... Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how this is actually wrong. I am beginning to wonder, though, if this is, like, maybe not the way to do it. I don't think I need RenderDoc anymore. I think I can just close this. Okay, well that flipped it, and it's still wrong there. So I definitely don't want to do... Definitely don't want Y. Let's try Z again. I really need to figure out what this is. Why is this? I think I've got some sort of race condition here. I'll figure that out at some point. All right. Okay, so top to bottom, they are correct. Do not have hot reloading implemented. I have a older version of hot reloading, but it's not tied into the new asset system yet. So it's something I have to put in. Working on implementing hot reloading stuff. It's a pain in the ass. Yeah. Tried going the binary patching route and gave up. Just doing DLL reloading. Oh, when you mean hot reloading, do you mean asset hot reloading or DLL hot reloading? Because we do have DLL hot reloading enabled. I just have no use for it at the moment because what I'm doing right now is not game code, and that's the only thing that I hot reload. But I also do have asset hot reloading. It's just not tied in right now because we just redid our asset system, so it's not tied in, which is actually making testing this kind of a pain in the butt. So that's fun. Okay. The only thing I can think of to do this, annoyingly, because it's not the texture coordinate it's not the 3D texture coordinate that I would need to invert. It's the texture coordinate of the individual textures, which is actually just not. Okay, I'm going to disable this for now. And instead, I'm going to put in a bit of a hack. I'm going to put in I didn't really want to do this, but we need to move on. And if this works, then we'll just go that route, right? So let's go to asset importer. And actually, this means I'm going to have to technically modify the manifest to handle this, which is kind of not ideal. Let's see. So I probably need to do. I need to go into here. Let's see. So we are in processing assets. We need to go to asset manifest asset, LOL. Really annoying. This is terrible. Implement some sort of meta data option instead. But for right now, we're just going to do that. And for each one of these objects, let's see, we get the name, the path, the source path, right? And so if we have a source path, I guess we could just treat it the same as the source path, right? We could just go in here and do another hack, implement some sort of metadata instead. Right? We just want to see if this is actually going to work, right? So this is going to be flip y. So let's see. We don't need a string for this because this is going to be property value get bool. We're going to want flip y. Whoops. Flip y. And then this is going to be asset flip y. And then actually we don't care whether or not it fails. So we can actually just do that. Right? And then when we are we're in here, we can do asset flip y, right? Which is going to be, ooh, you know what? That's going to be, wait, let me think about that. So that's going to be defaulted to false. Ooh, we need to actually fix that. Okay. We want to do, we actually want it to default to true if it's not provided. So if that's not provided, we'll do asset flip y equals true. Okay. That means that it'll work in the default case. And we should be I think that should work. So we're setting it explicitly to false for these. It should work otherwise. Okay. Good evening. Wouldn't it be better to with error check and does flip y return if it was flipped or just set? So basically the way that the Boolean function works when we're parsing it out of this file is it defaults to false if it doesn't exist. But we want it to default to true. But the value that it actually returns let me see. So the value that this returns is whether or not it successfully processed that value. So if it didn't find this flip y option within that object in here, then this is going to return false, saying I didn't find this, so I didn't parse it. And then we're going to essentially say, okay, well, it wasn't provided, so we want to default it to true. Otherwise, if it did find it and successfully process it, then we just want to use that value, essentially. All right. Did I rebuild? I think I did. All right, let's see. Oh, that's not going to work because I did not rerun the importer. I just want to see if this actually helps fix the issue or not. Okay, so here we go. Launch this. I suspect that there's going to be another issue with this, but yeah, that's still very much foobar. Okay. It's at least correct top to bottom, though. Did I did disable this bit. So what would have changed? What would have changed to actually make this? Because even if I use the original asset, it's still wrong. So I'm trying to think what would have actually changed in order to actually make that. What would have actually changed to make that appear backwards? Even if I come in here and I grab all of these assets here and paste them into, let's see. So this is the backup of the assets I made. Even if I replace these, regardless of the import, I think it still shows up wrong. But they come into, they're loaded in the cube map correctly. What am I missing? Because we don't have this enabled. And that's the only thing that changed in this pull request. Right? If we look at this guy, literally the only thing that changed. The crappy part is I don't know when I broke it. Let me think. What else could it be? This is my safe space after an entire day of C++. Nice. Well, welcome. This is a safe space for us C lovers in here. This calls for git bisect. Yeah. Yeah, the problem is I don't know exactly when I broke it. I think it's... We know the images are loading in the correct order. We know they're loading in the correct orientation because we confirmed that in RenderDoc. And I think what's happening it's like they're all flipped on like the x-axis or something, which is very, very strange. The first thing we ran into was a format issue. We fixed that. The file size is fine, yeah. Flip vertical, yeah, that was the first thing I thought, but like, so wait a minute. Didn't we also have that? Didn't we also have that in the actual asset system? And I was saying this is the wrong place for it, and I think we were... There's a bunch of places in the asset system that have it. This might be actually where the problem is. Let's see, I'll leave that disabled for now. This, there should not be... This should not exist. I don't know that we were actually using it, though. Let's see, so request image. Oops. Let's see, so let's go here to asset system. I don't know that this was actually hooked to anything, but I'm getting rid of it because it shouldn't be here. That should have to do with asset imports only. Shouldn't actually be doing that anywhere else. Let me actually rebuild this, and then I'm going to have to fix it anywhere that it is used. Not surprising. Texture system. Let's see. So it should be, and I think this is where these false things are coming in. State package name listener. Wait a minute. Yeah, package name listener. Yeah, it is these. Okay, so let's get rid of these. And then there's 2 more spots. Let's see. So this is, I think it's just this and this. I don't think those are actually doing anything though. Let's try it though. No. Okay. Let's also do flip Y. Where else is this used aside from? This is only used by our logic that we literally just wrote. Okay. So this is all the import logic. Wait a minute. What's this? This is import from path, which we're technically not doing. Okay, that's actually fine. All right, I don't see this anywhere else where it would actually make a difference. This is all importer stuff. So how long has this been broken would be my next question. This might have been broken longer than I thought. The other problem I got after compressing texture, but I think it's seriously also the shader messing up, is I did the shader hack, just reverse the UV by doing uv.x equals 1.0 minus uv.x. Oh, you invert. You might be right about that, actually. I might need to do. Yeah, I see what you're saying. We might have to do out DTO text chord dot x equals 1.0. So instead of like flipping it, we invert it. Out DTO x. Let me actually shut this back off for a second. You might be onto something there, actually. That might be actually what I was looking for, instead of just negating it. Haha. You are correct. I think. Wait a minute. Hold on. You're partially correct. That's not 100% right yet, because we're actually mirroring. This texture is getting mirrored now. And then this one is getting... What is happening there? Oh, I wonder if I need to do the same thing on Z. Because now it's being stretched. Yeah. Yeah, I think I wonder if I'm going to have to do it across the board. Because I'm using the original asset, which was not flipped, which is also wrong. So, because I'd like to eliminate that as like a... all right. I don't think I need to do this across all three, but I'm going to do it anyways. Whoops. And then RZ. Shader hot reloading would go a long way here. Yeah, no, that's definitely not right. I suspect... Actually, it's probably Z that needs it, not Y. Come to think of it. Yeah. Or... it might need to be a combination of these two guys. Yeah. The thing is, though, we're not... so I could open up Blender, right? But like the skybox itself is not an OBJ. We generate the geometry in code. So yeah, I think... it's going to be a mixture of inverting it and negating it. Yeah, okay. So I think the only one I should be doing that on is X, but I have a feeling I also need to do this. Oops. Why does it keep doing that? I'm going to have to figure that out at some point. Oh, wait a minute. That's actually a syntax error. What did I do? Oh. You dingus. Okay. That's getting stretched weirdly. Let me try rerunning the importer, though. Because I'm technically not working with the stuff I should be working with. And actually, let me check. Let me check. Because I really would like to be able to get rid of these if I can. Okay, and then switch back to the app. Which I realize is probably going to look wrong now, but that's fine. Okay, so... So does that mean I don't need to do that? That seems wrong. Yeah, that's not the axis I wanted. I hate this kind of thing because it's like you spend so much time like debugging this kind of thing and it's not even like a... I might just actually start working on hot reloading so I can debug this afterwards, to be completely honest. Let's look into that because this is really annoying me. And I don't like having to like relaunch all the time. It'd be nice if I could just get the shader hot reloading to work. So let's take a look at that. So That'll make it a lot easier to troubleshoot this, because then I can just screw around with the shader and keep reloading it. So the shader system, let's see, whenever we have, let's see, shader reload is basically what we do to trigger a reload of the shader once a hot reload has happened. We don't have any way, though. We just have this file watch event, which, let's see, resource hot reloaded. So we've got to check that. This is what I was saying, like I have it in here, but like it's not rehooked back up yet. Now you get to watch a better programmer than me write a system I need to implement. Yeah, fair enough. So I already have like some of it in place. So the way that this works is we actually have this resource hot reloaded, which is not really it's not really something we need to be using anymore. Resource hot reloading, not a thing anymore. So we can actually free that one. What we should be using is asset hot reloaded. So that's going to be a thing. Here we'll just do asset hot reloaded. Now, I don't believe there's anything actually sending this event code out yet at the moment. Event code asset hot reloaded. So that just checks for it. Yeah, there's nothing actually sending this. Okay. So, let's see. We need a way to tell our asset system when a particular asset should be watched for any sort of disk activity or really a hot reloaded. We don't necessarily want to watch everything for hot reload because that would be a huge waste of time and resources. So we should be able to do it. We should essentially be able to do it, selectively. So if we take a look at our asset system, we have all of these requests for hot reloading, right? Or for regular loading, right? Either synchronous or asynchronous. So we would probably need one for each individual type. Let's see. And then, would we need one by type? Or maybe we could do it a little bit more generic than that. When we do a load of a terrain, for example, all right, that stores the asset name and package name. I don't think all assets do, though. They probably shouldn't. Don't need to. So there's a couple ways we could approach this. As far as the file system goes, wasn't it in here, or it might have been actually the VFS that might have had that wrapped up in it. I can't remember where I actually wrapped that up in it. Yeah, watch for hot reload. Here we go. So when we actually request the asset from disk, part of the asset data itself is whether or not it's supposed to be watched for hot reload. So that would have to happen at the time of request. And then we have this VFS hot reload callbacks register. Which do we even have? Let's see, we have a hot reloaded callback. This is for assets. So that gives us asset data. We might actually want to think about redoing the way that we've done this, actually. Because the way that this worked before is we have an asset loaded callback, and then we have an asset hot reloaded callback. which I guess is fine, but the problem with this is the asset loaded callback essentially triggers these individual callbacks at the asset system level. So whenever we load something asynchronously, that is something that gets handed off to the job system, is done on a different thread. And whenever that completes, there's an internal callback that then calls this callback, that then goes to whatever system is there. The problem with this is if we also want to specify hot reloading or watching for hot reloading at the time of request, we would have to put a second listener here and a second callback here for each one of these things. And I think that kind of sucks. So I don't think we want to do that. I am actually thinking we probably ought to... Some of these things we don't actually want to even support hot reloading on to begin with. I am actually thinking each one of these should probably have its own ability to register for hot reloading, right? So hot reloading would be triggered by disk activity or the file being updated and the timestamp changing on the file. Let me think. So when that triggers, if the actual asset itself is registered to listen for that, we would probably, let's see, would we create a new asset of that type with all of the serialization and all that stuff required, or would we want to update the existing one? And how would we tie the file watch ID, which is what the OS gives us essentially, to that? I guess we would probably... I guess let's just do it for one of these types, right? So I guess let's try... Shaders is the first one we want, so let's just implement it there. All right, so I'm thinking interface-wise. We are going to want probably a return type of Boolean, and then we'll do asset system shader. Do we want to do watch, or watch for hot reload seems kind of long. I guess we could just do watch, right? And then we can do kasset shader. Take a pointer to that, so that'll be the shader. We are also probably going to need the asset system state. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. So we're also going to want the system state, and then we are going to want to write out, I think it's a U32, out watch ID. Okay. The only other thing that we are going to need to do... We're going to need a little bit more info than that, actually. Because what are we actually watching for, right? And does our VFS actually allow this to be done separately? I don't remember. Which is why I'm saying we probably need to... We probably need to rethink the way that this is actually written. I might actually just strip all of this out and we'll write it from scratch, is what I'm actually thinking we might do. Because this worked fine for like the old way that we did it, where we had the import system tied into the runtime, and that just kind of worked. But for this, it's not really... It's a little bit more complicated than I think it needs to be. Because the other thing is like we had this whole registration system where you would register a callback to happen whenever any asset was hot reloaded via the VFS, right? And the VFS would say, "Hey, we've got this asset that's been hot reloaded. Make this callback when that happens." And I don't think that this is necessarily the way that we should be handling that. I feel like we probably ought to use our event system to do this instead of having like crap tons of callbacks. The only thing that we need also, so thinking about this from a high level perspective, what do we need to happen when we are thinking about an asset hot reload? There's a couple things that we need to happen. So we need to be able to tell the platform at the platform layer, so at the Linux level, the Win32 level, whatever, that we need a file watch on a particular file. That will return us an ID. So we need to know where that file exists, that we're going to be watching for it, right? And then we need to associate that file path and the watch ID and an asset together. And right now those things are sort of separated. So the watcher ID is kind of paired together with a loose definition of asset data within the VFS, which doesn't really belong there. And so I'm thinking the asset system should probably be the one to pair all those three pieces together. So what we should do is when we request something, like a shader, for example, we should probably also have a second watch like this, which makes sense. We could also pass a pointer to the shader, but then also we should do package name and name as well. And that'll help us build a file path to the thing that we're actually going to watch, right? And then that'll output a watch ID. And then that watch ID is something that we can use within the individual system that manages whatever this asset is, in this case, the shader system, to say, hey, let's loop through our shaders. We've got a list of shaders and watch IDs that we are watching. That way, whenever we get a notification from that watch system, we check its ID against all of our shaders, and then when we find one that has that watch ID in it, we hot reload that thing. Yeah, that's not going to be a 5-minute thing, though. It's not going to be a quick thing to write, because I think I'm going to have to gut the old system and rewrite it. Because it's a little cumbersome to use right now. So the VFS, we have this, here we go, actually here. So we have this watched assets in the VFS that ties VFS asset data, right? So we have this, which has a file watch ID that we get from the platform, right? And then whether or not it's being watched, which is also kind of weird. And then a whole bunch of this other stuff that kind of goes with it. This is not the thing that I think should be actually issuing the watch. I don't think the VFS should be managing that. It should be nothing really more than a pass-through. Because the other thing that we need to bear in mind is an original requirement that we had for hot reloading that we never actually quite got around to is we only want that to work in debug builds. We don't want that to work in release builds. We don't want hot reloading in a release build. It makes no sense. So hot reloaded callback. Yeah, I think we need to just strip this out and redesign it. because this is not the way that I want it to work going forward. Because right here, this VFS watcher written callback, that is what is fed to us from the file system at the platform layer. This is essentially invoked whenever we have a disk update, right? And then we basically just reload that. And then we make the callback here. So we shouldn't be making this callback. We should probably be firing off another event that actually handles the hot reloaded. And actually, it's technically not even hot reloaded, right? It should be like a watcher written event, right? That maybe isn't even handled at this level at all. Okay, I clearly need to think about this a little bit more. Gotta head out. Have a nice night. Thanks for the stream. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for being here. Let's see. Hi, why does C need to use typedef between structs name after struct declaration if it has it before? I know what typedef is doing, but why does it need to be this way? Okay, that's a good question. I assume you're talking about when I do stuff like this, where I have, typedef struct VFS request info, VFS request info. The way a lot of people do it, the way a lot of code bases do it, is they'll do, this, and they'll keep this sort of initial name for it, different. But I like to do it the same. Reason being, the first thing I should say, I don't want to have to type struct VFS request info all over the place where I actually want to use it, right? So me saying, typedef struct VFS request info and then VFS request info here just allows me to say VFS request info. I don't have to put the keyword struct in front of it because the typedef takes care of that for me. I technically don't have to name this at all, right? I could just leave it like this and say typedef struct, and then this whole thing is just now known as a VFS request info. The reason I do this, the reason I do this is because if for some reason I have some other interface that needs to deal with or know about a VFS request info without having to actually include this file, what I can do is I can actually forward declare it and just say struct VFS, if I can type, VFS request info like that. And then in the function, I'll have I don't know, B8 some function, and then I can do struct, VFS request info. I put a thingy here, info like this, and I can forward declare that in another file without having to include this file to get this actual structure, right? And it allows me to kind of keep the same name here and allows me to forward declare this without having to include all of this. But then in places where this is included, I could just not even have to use the struct keyword, and I could just do that, right? So that's kind of the reason that I do that. I hope that makes sense. Hey, do you still use game engine architecture as a reference? I do. The book. Yep, I do. In my shader system, I'm still making, I need to implement or inject parts of the UI code in a if shader type equals 6 statement. I have conditional rendering of types 2D quads. Oh, okay. I'm not sure where you were going with that, but yeah, I kind of get what you mean. Let's see. Okay. The shader hack can only go so far because you need to get the UVs correct by default after load because the UVs are probably wrong. And I think unfortunately on my skybox, I think the UVs are actually wrong. And I don't know how that happened because I'm pretty sure I haven't changed anything having to do with that in ages. So I might have to look at that too, because I think it's highly possible that the UVs are just wrong. And that might actually be contributing to this issue here as well. So I'll have to see. I'll have to reevaluate that. I think what I might do is I might let's see. Yeah, I've got a few fixes in here, so I'm probably going to push the fixes that I have tonight, minus some of the other things, and then I'll work on the hot reloading stuff separate, and the geometry stuff separate, because I'm beginning to suspect that the actual cube geometry is wrong. And the way that I generated that probably was correct when I had the Skybox Z like flipped, but I think now it's just kind of messing it up. Let's see. Where it's going, there's going to be an init shader. My goal is to render everything with one shader, which might not be possible, but it's a great goal for OpenGL ES 2.0 and OpenGL 3 or lower. Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. The old Uber shader. Yeah, you could do that for sure. I've done it before. In fact, there are some shaders in here that I'm going to be combining at some point. But yeah. All right. You know what? I think, though, because I only really have 4 minutes. I have to get up for work in the morning, so I think I'm probably going to end the stream a little bit early. And by early, I mean like 5 minutes early. Just because my brain is kind of toast today. And this is not something that I'm going to be able to take on and get done really quickly. That's going to require a little bit of digging in terms of how I want to do it. So I'm going to think about this, and then we're going to tackle it in the next stream. All right, let me see if I can find somebody to raid really quickly. And I know who it's going to be, because this is the last time these guys are going to be on Thursday. So we're going to raid Els Dragoon. They are a team of a couple chaps working on a Nintendo, or an original NES game using 6502 assembly. So Giga Chad stuff, and we're going to go see what they are up to tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I will see you guys in the next one. And I'll shoot you guys over on the YouTube side a link to there as well. But yeah, see you guys.